Hi kids, and welcome to another one of Emma's Snippets. Now, one of the questions I get quite a lot is, how do I stop myself from being so reactionary? How do I deal with a situation where I feel really triggered? And I think before you can do that work, you need to understand what is happening there. So generally speaking, there are two forms of emotion, right? There's primary emotion and secondary emotion. Primary emotions are the big players, joy, anger, fear, those sort of ones. Secondary emotions are the ones that are more complicated: jealousy, envy, those sort of things. And the way to understand it is primary emotion is the ones that happen in the moment. They're those ones that hit really hard and you feel them really intensely, but they tend to be quite fleeting. So they tend to hit hard and then fade out. Secondary emotions are based on our belief systems. They're based on our interpretations. They're based on our applying logic. They're based on our values. They're based on our life experiences. They're based on everything else. So what they do is they start smaller and they tend to grow because we feed them with our outlook. Okay, so what we're looking to do is create a gap between the primary and the secondary, because you can't help how you feel in the moment. If something scares you or makes you angry or makes you full of joy or any of those kind of major instantaneous sort of emotions, there's not a lot you can do about that. They're like this, right? But what we can do is we can apply enough logic, enough thinking, enough tools to make us go in the moment, hang on, am I feeding this? Am I using stories? Am I justifying something? So for example, you might have a situation where someone said something in the office and you feel really angry, right? They've said something and you've taken it personally and you're full of anger, and you walk away and your brain goes to you, that person's always undermining me. That person doesn't think much of me. They look down on me. They're out to get my career. They want to make me look small. There's something about them. They've never liked me. They're trying to prove their point. And then as you start thinking like that, your situation, your feeling, your emotions, they start to escalate. And then that's when you start reacting. That's when you start doing things you regret. That's when you start doing stupid things. That's when you say the things that get you in trouble in the longer term. Those are the ones where you go, shouldn't have said that later. But you can't help it, right? Because you're justifying it in your mind. In your mind, you're like, this is a perfectly reasonable way to respond to the fact that they don't like me, that they're undermining me, blah, 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 blah. And so what we try and do is, first of all, understand why your brain goes there. Why does it tell you that that person's out to get you? Why do you feel undermined by that behaviour? Why is that so triggering? Because for someone else, they might just think, what a twat. Right? Or if there was another person that did something like that to you that was similar, with that particular person, it might not bother you that much. Maybe you look down on them yourself, maybe you respect them. There's a myriad of reasons why. But there's something about this specific person in this specific situation that set you off. So what's happening there? But also, what tools can we use in the moment that stop us having these stories? Because at the end of the day, how we experience the world is entirely up to us. It doesn't always feel like it. It does feel like life happens to us sometimes, but it's not the case. In reality, you're constructing those. And even if you're right, even if that person doesn't like you and they're undermining you in this example, so what? So what? That's not your problem, that's theirs. So it's creating that gap between the primary, which we can't necessarily help, and the secondary, where we are trying to create a little bit of space there where we stop that justification that allows the secondary emotions to carry out. Okay, and the more efficient we are at that, the bigger that gap gets, the more opportunity we have to stop it. And this is the difference between, and you know this in hindsight when you look back at your resilience, this is the difference between having a moment that 6 months ago would have sent you off for an entire week and made you really angry and come home and take it out on your other half and start messing up for the rest of the day, or make you eat badly or go and drink too much, or these sort of things, or just piss you off for 15 minutes. You go for a walk around the block, you have a cup of tea and you feel better. That's the difference. And that's when you know that you're doing it right, that hindsight looking back at your resilience. So that's the difference between primary and secondary, and that's how we try and stop you having those reactions that not just make life difficult but make you upset and miserable, because at the end of the day, the only person that feels like you do is you, right? And even if you think your emotions are justified, even if you feel like your anger is justified, it's still you having to sit in that feeling, and that's bloody horrible, right? It's a horrible place to be. So that's what we look to do. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. If there's something I can help you with, give me a shout. You know how it works. Drop me a DM. But that's it for today. Snippy out. Bye, kids.